All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is PennyMaria Jackson. Good morning. I know it's lots of cool people in here, and we're all excited to meet and reconnect. But we're going to go ahead and get started with the session now. Welcome. Please find a seat. My name is PennyMaria Jackson, and I'm from Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago, which sits on the land of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwa, the Potawatomi, and the Ojibwe. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a brown-skinned woman wearing a black head wrap and a black, white, and blue African print dress. As a member of APAP and a graduate of the organization's Leadership Fellows Program, I want to personally welcome you to the APAP NYC 2024 conference. We especially want to welcome new colleagues to this session, thriving in the new marketing reality. We look forward to being engaged and challenged by your voices and perspectives as we build the future of APAP. We are so thrilled to have you with us today. Our conference offers unmatched networking, showcasing, exhibiting, and professional development opportunities. And this year, we are thrilled to be celebrating a return to New York and sharing and learning from each other's experiences. If you are not registered for the conference or a member of APAP, please visit the info booth. We would love to have you join us. APAP values your feedback, and we encourage you to rate this session by scanning the QR code at the door or on your table. This survey can also be accessed via Swap Card, the APAP conference app, via the session description. We will also be doing a daily drawing for one free 2025 conference registration. Each survey completed counts as one entry. The APAP staff, volunteers, and board members are here to help. So don't hesitate to ask for assistance if you need it, or visit accessibility services in the main hallway at any time. And with that, we wish you an exciting and inspiring time here at APAP NYC, and encourage you to meet new people, and meet people who appear different than you. With that being said, let's get the party started. Marketing. Lots of excitement today. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Yes, Aaron, we can start with you.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks for coming this morning. My name is Aaron Baer. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for the ticketing software provider Etix. As part of my role as CMO, I oversee a team, a team of marketers that we call Rock House Partners, which is like an agency-style support for our clients. So we work directly with our clients one-on-one to help them with their marketing, to uplift their audience, their database, and to help them sell tickets to their shows.
Is this on? Oh, great. Hi, my name is Ben Cohen. I'm founder and CEO of a company called TourScout. So TourScout is like a rating and review platform. Think of Yelp or TripAdvisor, but specifically for the concert business, for live events. The idea being that if you take a community of fans and you get them to talk about their experiences, share media from concerts, rate and review, what you're essentially doing is you're inadvertently creating a database of information that artists and venues can use to figure out who their audiences are and how to access them better. And so we're currently pre-launch, have an investor, have a prototype launching at the end of Q1, March of 2023, or 2024, I guess. And prior to that, I worked for a Los Angeles-based talent agency for 7 years, running the booking department. So been on different sides of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Bruce Houghton. I founded Skyline Artists, now Skyline Myriad Artists, and I just realized that this is my 32nd year of coming to APAP. So I started when I was 12. No. And I'm here primarily because we do a great deal of booking, and I've seen good marketing and bad marketing, and I've seen how marketing changes. But by way of full disclosure, I'm also an advisor to a global concert app called Bands in Town that some of you may know, and we'll talk about that as one of the solutions.
And again, I'm PennyMaria Jackson, PM for short, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Steppenwolf Theater. For the purpose of today's conversation, we're going to define marketing as selling more tickets and getting more people into your venue. So we're focusing on the more in these new and challenging times. A few of the tactics that we're going to cover will include branding, data collection, and creating fulfilling, enriching experiences throughout the patron journey. So, as we get started, I'm going to employ the West African tactic of Sankofa, and that means to look back in order to move forward. And so with that in mind, we're going to take just 1 minute to kind of share a major, exciting marketing initiative or project that we participated on, or a major insight that we experienced prior to the pandemic. So, Bruce, why don't you go ahead and start?
Well, I'm going to start negative and hopefully end positive, and that is, as somebody who books a lot of dates, I'm constantly amazed how few venues have marketing plans, and how many of those marketing plans are not cookie cutter. I mean, they should all begin cookie cutter, I understand that. And I am completely amazed at how few of them share them with the artist before they implement them, or the artist management, or the agent. Just a quick story. Just recently, I do a package called Legends of Country Rock that are country rock bands that crossed over into country, if you will, or had those overtones. And a great venue, a smart venue, spent $2,000 on a country radio station that never has and never will play these artists. And by the time, if they'd asked anyone involved, we would have told them no. So I'm starting that as an example to say I believe it's about communications, and that's the big lesson that I've learned recently really is that we need to reach out to each other early in the process to do it right.
So, Aaron, why don't you go next?
Before I was at Etix, I worked at 1,000 cap historic PAC in Durham, North Carolina. And this may feel like a small thing, but when I took over, it's almost 20 years ago now, there was only about 1,000 emails on their email list. And after about 8 or 9 years, when I left, we were up to over 80,000. And we put in strategies to help, and as I was learning during that time, I just really learned the value of data collection, and it sort of springboarded me into a career talking about that and focusing on that. But it was just this little PAC to take the email list up to that level, really did a lot of the work for our marketing department for that stretch. So I'm really proud of that.
Thank you. And before we hop back to Ben, I'm going to pop in and say that for me personally, I had the opportunity to work with corporate sponsors who were giving in high amounts prior to the pandemic. And with that, I was able to leverage those funds for audience development and experiential audience activations on site at the theater. So it was more than about what they experienced on stage, but also in the space of the theater, engaging with themes of the show, which is really exciting. But those funds, in some cases, have kind of taken a hit since the pandemic. All right, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say on my end, when I was in the agent world, we weren't really doing hard ticket acts. I mean, we were doing things that people would say, I love this, I don't know how I can sell it. And so breaking even was a great success in a lot of cases. I think we occupy a pretty interesting place in the performing arts where, especially presenters, you want to challenge your audiences, you want to introduce them to something new, but also at the same time, you need to bring people into the house, and so that level of familiarity is also necessary. And I think that's a difficult line to toe. So any time that we were able to kind of get to that break-even place, that was really great. It's not just in the performing arts. I mean, commercially, 40% of tickets go unsold every year. Live Nation has an unsold inventory of 35 million tickets every year. That's dead inventory, that's spoilage. So I think there's a lot that we can all do to really work on that and improve.
Is that sold the first time or the second time, do you think so?
And so, Ben, would you say that's part of some of the unsolvable issues that you identified in the industry that made you start this new journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, there are various different things that are kind of apparent, especially on our side of the business. There's obviously the ticket sales issue. There's the marketing issue. We don't really have great word of mouth in our industry. There's also, we have great access to quantitative information. Polestar, is problematic as it can be, is a great resource when people are booking shows, but there's not a similar repository of qualitative information where we can actually get real fan feedback in real time when booking shows. So I think those are some of the things that drove me to starting TourScout.
Yes. So thank you for going on that quick flashback moment with us. Now we're going to go ahead and move into the present time and use that to propel us into the future. So with COVID challenges in mind, which I'm sure all of you have experienced, some difficulty in getting audiences back into your spaces or getting them back into the habit. We want to just kind of talk through a few of the new tactics and methods that we're employing, or how we're revving up current methodologies to really engage those audiences in new and exciting ways. One of the major things we kind of talked about in our prep session, Aaron, I'll start with you, was around a lot of the new privacy laws that have started, and the importance of first-party data. That means that we need to collect our audience's information directly, because it's harder to get that those email addresses through other ways. So yeah, why don't you talk us through that?
Thank you for that. So as if COVID wasn't difficult or challenging enough, we're coming up on 3 years now since Apple decided to change the game with iOS 14.5. And this was when they decided to allow users to decide whether or not their apps could track their behavior across apps. If anyone that has an iPhone the last few years, you know what I'm talking about. When you install an app, it doesn't just say, hey, can I track your location? Can I send you notifications? It now asks if, allow this app not to track. So although that was a global standard that Apple put in for all of their, for all of the folks in the App Store, this hit Facebook the hardest. So what this did was Facebook no longer could track its users as carefully or as closely as it did before, which meant when you went to go place an ad, they had a harder time finding an audience for that ad. Privacy is a good thing, no complaints about that, of course, but we've had to learn to shift up the marketing a little bit. So one of the things that we've seen, if you came up in marketing, 2010, 11, 12, for that decade, you went to go start placing your ads, and all of a sudden, I don't see my targeting here. This band was here the last time I placed this ad. How come it isn't here now? And it really changed the game. Honestly, Meta was so good at connecting to an audience and selling tickets that, as an industry, as a profession, marketing, we got a little lazy. So what we've had to do is really start to market a funnel again. When we say market the funnel, you have your folks that are top of funnel that may not be super engaged with you. Mid funnel, they may know who you are. They may have signed up for the email list. And then lower funnel, folks that are more close to purchase. And so we can dig into this a lot, but just that's sort of the short version, is just learning to market the funnel again. That was one of the first times that I was happy to be one of the older guys on my staff. I'm like, wait, no, we used to do this.
Yeah.
So where some of the younger guys were like, none of this works anymore. So it's happy to dig into that more, but that's sort of the basic overview.
Yeah, thank you for that starting point. So reaching a wider audience in order to get better results.
Right, but with not the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would say, but with not necessarily the intention to purchase. So you can't always just grab someone here and pull them all the way down. Sometimes just getting a website visit is a win. Mm-hmm. And then if they visit your website, then if you have your retargeting set up, you can tag them again. And then maybe they sign up for an email list. Sorry if
Exactly. No, that's fine. We're saying the same thing, and that also goes back to part of the patron journey, the patron experience that I mentioned earlier. So something else we talked about was dynamic pricing. So let's get into that. Who'd like to jump in?
Are you all familiar with what dynamic pricing is? Anybody not? Okay. And do most of the ticket services that you work with, how many of you of the ticket services you work with actually offer that as an option, or you just read about it? Yeah.
Oh.
You're going to see more of it. God, I wasn't prepared for this one. I have very mixed emotion. Dynamic pricing basically is make the most money you can from the sale of every ticket by having the price go up and down like an airline seat does. I have very mixed emotions about that as an agent because I'm always worried about the fan journey and upsetting the fan. Having said that, I do believe that venues in a variety of ways underprice their tickets. We over and over again see the best seats selling and then quickly, and then the rest of the seats struggling to sell, which tells us, in simple terms, that there are some people that will pay and are able to pay anything to see the artists that they love, and there are some fans who are either more on the cusp of whether they want to go or not, or don't have the financial means to. So, to me, there are ways to handle that without dynamic pricing, just by more creative pricing, by reaching out to specific communities and offering discounts. I'm not a fan of flash sales. I think that diminishes the value of the ticket. But I don't know if I answered your question. Go. Jump in.
I mean, I think everything that you said is really valid, and especially in terms of accessing the casual fan. I mean, I really think that's where a lot of innovation is going to happen, because we all know who the super fans are. Live Nation was talking about this at their Liberty Media investor presentation. They were saying, look, when you look at our average show, when you look at our 35 million unsold tickets in inventory for commercial shows, you're seeing the VIP super fan high price tickets sell really fast. And what you're seeing is the balcony is where a lot of that unsold inventory is happening. Those are the people who might be either at a lower price point, or they might be a more casual fan who's not necessarily interested in taking 4 hours out of their Friday night, plus Ubers, plus beer, plus whatever else you're doing, to go see an artist that you might not be totally familiar with. I think dynamic pricing is fantastic. I think it is inherently capped in certain ways, in the sense of, I think it's no secret that a lot of artists don't want their tickets to be priced too high, because they feel like that reflects poorly on them. And I think a lot of venues and promoters don't want tickets priced too low. Like, obviously everyone can paper the house and have a full house sometimes, but there's a reputational element to that as well. So I do think the dynamic pricing gives a lot of flexibility to drive demand, but I also think that it's limited in the capacity, like how far you can go with it. My personal contention.
So a reality or a difficult truth we have to think about is we all hate resale. It wouldn't exist if we knew how to price our tickets. Yeah. So it can feel uncomfortable pricing for in a reserved house down front. It feels greedy sometimes. It feels the artist may not like it, but they're going to sell. I've never in my life put a show on sale where the front rows didn't sell. It just doesn't happen. But when we talk about dynamic pricing, and there's a sort of a discomfort with prices going up, but this is also a tool to help prices come down.
Exactly.
Scaling in a house is extremely important. Like, I'm all for, even on the commercial acts, like, charge as much as you want down front, but if I'm in the the top of the arena, why is that a $120 ticket? So yes, we can keep our gross potential roughly the same, but just balance it out to give up, other opportunities for maybe a casual fan, someone that's just looking for something to do that night, or maybe with a group of friends, like, yeah, I'll go to that because it's $25 or whatever. But the other fun thing about that, and like I mentioned, I worked in a 1,000 cap room, and I worked for a guy that was amazing at this, about scaling the house, because it was only 1,000 seats. And we would keep our gross potentials the same, but we really did start charging more up front. But what it did is it helped with risk, because we were, instead of having to sell 600 tickets to break even, all of a sudden we only had to sell 400 tickets to break even. And so while we were, yes, raising prices down front, we were lowering them in the balcony, and we were actually doing better on our shows that weren't doing as well. Like, that risk was balanced out.
Yeah, thank you all for all of those very valid points. I will say that since the pandemic, I think disparities in discretionary income have become more important. So that's why the fact that dynamic pricing goes both up and down is really helpful. I think something else that's important when we talk about, filling those houses is that a lot of institutions, organizations, and independent artists have relied on collaborations more so than pre-pandemic, right? And so that's a great way for us to not only reach new audiences, but to also make sure that when we do offer some sort of limited discount, Bruce, that it goes to a smaller audience, and an audience that will connect more with that show. All right, so now let's get into some recommendations that we can share with all of our colleagues here. So we have administrators, agents, artists, among others, and all with various marketing budgets and resources. We understand that is evidenced by, the dynamic pricing question. So we'd like to share some accessible starting points for retaining and expanding audiences with all of you today. Recently at Steppenwolf, we did some membership research, and one of the key things that we learned was that audiences not only want general information about a show, but they want as much information as possible. So one thing we started doing was creating in-depth pre-performance artistic emails. So not just one email or one video, but really including more interviews with maybe the director or the dramaturg, and really kind of digging into some information that could provide a lot of context to audience members. So when they came into the show, they were sitting there kind of with a lot of questions in their mind. They were really fully ready to engage with the work. And again, that talks about having a really fulfilling experience while you're there seated in the theater. Bruce, why don't you talk about meeting with the artists?
Dealing from the artist point of view. One thing I would say, just to piggyback on that, is I'm constantly amazed by marketing that is the band's name and that's it. And even just if it's a beginning act, letting them know the genre that they're in, and I know artists hate genres, but the truth is if I see Americana, I look twice, and that's different for different people. The other is I deal with a lot of classic rock bands, and people know hits more than they know the band, frankly. So when you're buying an ad and you don't have the 3 big hits under their name, I think you're missing an opportunity. So whatever level you're at, I would say that's something you need to pay attention to. And then I'll go back to the marketing plan idea that I talked about earlier, and that is that, do your marketing plan early. Frankly, if you're in a competitive market, I recommend sending your marketing plan with the offer. I can tell you as an agent, if somebody gives me the marketing a marketing plan and somebody else doesn't give me a marketing plan, and the marketing plan that I see is a little bit creative, I know that they're going to be a partner in the success of the venue and they're going to get the show, assuming that the money is in the ballpark. I don't want to pretend that money doesn't matter. And then the other part of it is to, as I said earlier, to communicate that marketing plan before you implement it, once you get the show, before you implement it with the artist manager, artist, whoever it is that they're telling you to talk to, PR, the artists themselves, et cetera, because they know, or I know as an agent, talk to the agent, I know what's worked and what hasn't. And I'm going to say, no, don't do that, or maybe you should think about that. And ultimately, it's your plan, but getting that feedback early and often. So those are very old school things, but I think they're things that are not paid enough attention to.
Yeah, and Bruce, just to clarify, we would love to send a marketing plan with an offer, but we know that bandwidth-wise, we can't always do that. So just sharing a few key ideas that will be helpful to give the artist some sort of understanding.
Or I'll tell you this, you all have cookie cutter marketing plans. That sounds like a bad word, I'm sorry. You have a basis for your marketing plan, 15 minutes of creative thought attached to what you would do for this particular artist, expressed in 4 sentences. That's all I need to see. Yeah. I need to see that you understand and care. Sorry.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely support that. I think there's the question of where does the agent's responsibility begin and end in terms of marketing the show? Where does the artist's responsibility begin and end? And when does the presenter's responsibility begin and end? Certainly, there's nothing more frustrating for me, selling loss leader shows where, this would be priority number 40 on the presenter's marketing person's list. Tickets wouldn't sell. They weren't really interested in liaising with the artist in any way, and then they would just say, well, that didn't really sell, so we're not going to present it again. And I kind of felt trapped where, hey, there was nothing really that we could do. We were kind of set up to fail. So I think what Bruce is saying in terms of communication is really important. I would also say, we're not really a word of mouth industry, right? If I see an amazing show here and I go up to someone and I say, hey, I saw the most amazing show, you have to go see it. They're going to say, oh, great, when are they in town? I'm going to say, I don't know, 18 to 24 months from now, look it up. And so ultimately, finding who those artists' superfans are and really using them as ambassadors, even if they're in a different city, figuring out how to get them to leverage your own marketing efforts so that other people are then more interested in seeing what's ultimately a great show, I think is really important, leveraging the fans that already exist.
Yeah, and been keeping in mind the breadth of folks in the house. For some of us who have presenting or cultural organizations, sometimes that word of mouth is actually key and can turn the tide and really amplify a lot of the marketing that we have already planned. Now, it's not first time someone is seeing an ad that they're thinking about your show, but they've heard it from 3 friends, and then they see the ad, and they take that moment to transact. So, there are a breadth of ways to achieve what we're talking about here. Aaron, so one of the things we also spoke about as far as sharing some recommendations with the group was developing, those sales strategies. So going a little deeper into what Bruce started to say initially.
Yeah, and just to piggyback for a quick second, word of mouth on a show that's passed 100%. But I'm a venue guy, that's where I came from. And I always felt like we were always left out of the conversation. It was the artist and it was the audience. And I'm like, well, I'm in a beautiful historic PAC. This is someone's favorite place to see a show. So I do think, we all know that experience and customer service and all those things matter, but that's a critical piece to building up that database. And then piggybacking off of Bruce, my biggest piece of advice to our clients, and I practiced this when I was at my venue, was you have to sell tickets when customers want to buy them, not when you want to sell them. And let me explain that for a quick second. One of the nails on the chalkboard thing that I hear quite a bit still is, let's just put it on sale and see how it does. And then you get 3 weeks past the on sale, and let's say it didn't do well. And so now we have to put a plan together, do this, do that. People, human beings, we love knowing information ahead of time. We like to plan, especially for events, because do you have to get a babysitter? Do you want to maybe get a group of friends? So always announcing a show before it goes on sale in a big way, in a regular way, that you can train your audience. Like, I love a Tuesday, Friday situation where you're sending out your new on sales on Tuesday if you have this kind of volume, or whatever it is, depending on how many shows a year you do. It works in a lot of places. I'm not a huge fan of season on sales because it dilutes. And so if you can stretch out your on sales and kind of make a little bit of a big deal, run an ad, a paid ad for these on sales. Because what that does, that doesn't only sell tickets, that also, when we talk about marketing the funnel, that also maybe someone didn't buy a ticket, but they probably clicked on the link, and that you can retarget them later on. So what you're doing up front is investing in building an audience for later marketing. And if you do this once, twice, 3 times, you may not see a difference. But if you do this and you commit to this as a policy, to always announce a show, to always advertise the announcement, you don't have to go crazy. It could be just a couple $100 on Meta or Instagram or whatever it is you do locally. But if you do it regularly and train your audience, you really will see those on sale numbers go up.
And involve the artist in the on sale.
And involve the artist. And then also the close. So it's a really difficult thing to do when you're in that maintenance period. Like, you sell a lot of tickets at on sale. Most of the time, tickets sell a lot at on sale. They sell a lot during close, and you're sweating it during the maintenance period. And so just kind of have the guts to hold on until that, and you'll know your venue. But if it's 1 week, 2 week, 3 week period towards the end, when you start to see sales. So good marketing is not creating magic out of thin air. It's leaning into organic activity, right? People naturally buy more as you approach your show date. They naturally buy more at on sale. So lean into that and enhance that through paid ads.
Yeah. And I would imagine that a lot of you here have also been experimenting more so post-pandemic than pre-pandemic, right? So with that in mind, I think it's very important that we also revisit surveys and do them more often or more frequently to see if those changes that we're making are really having the impact we want them to. Yes, we can look at sales numbers, but like you were saying, that also that qualitative data. What do we need to hear from our audience that's really going to help us connect with them and serve them best? And by doing that, utilizing that information, we're not just selling them tickets, but we're building a relationship because they see the changes and the suggestions and requests that they make when possible and when it fits with the organizations or the venues or the artist's agenda and mission, right? So that's something else that we want you to keep in mind.
Can I piggyback just real quick? I know most ticketing platforms have some sort of like a thank you email that
Yes.
goes out.
Yeah.
Just create your survey once, drop it in that email, and just sit back. And as the months and years go by, you'll actually be able to see trends instead of, okay, let's stop and send out a survey. You know, if you
Yeah.
just have it there all the time, it can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah, so what we've been doing is both, right? So, and also connecting with those new to file audiences is really important. So if you see folks who have come to see your show one time and you have another show coming up, making sure that you follow up as soon as possible with some sort of offer to get them back into your space. And again, make sure that that relationship is authentic and is sustained. Now we're going to open the floor for a few questions. So, okay, yes, please, go ahead. We'll get started with you.
For Aaron, just going back to the on-sale date versus the announcement versus the on-sale date, do you not worry at all about losing somebody who might purchase it who sees the on-sale email but then does not, or the announcement but then does not click on the today's the day it's being sold email?
Correct. No, that's a wonderful question, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer it. So the question was, if we're promoting, if we're putting paid advertising behind an announcement when someone can't buy yet, is that a missed opportunity? What we do during that stretch is contest. So that way you always have an action to give, and you can say, hey, win, and make it a good prize. Because if you make it a good prize, people will enter. But hey, win, 2 front row seats to XYZ, goes on sale Friday. So you collect emails, sometimes hundreds of emails during this stretch, and then Friday morning you email everyone that engaged that ad or that entered that contest and say, hey, sorry, you pulled the winner, and then you say, hey, sorry, you didn't win, tickets go on sale in 30 minutes, that kind of thing. So that way you're still maintaining that announce, you're giving people an opportunity to plan and be ready for the on sale, but you're also collecting a lot of data. So thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. Okay. First, we'll start with the gentleman in the blue shirt, and then the man in.
Aaron, can you talk a little bit more about the better funnel strategies you've seen? How do you retarget everybody in each step, and how does the content at each step differ from the one before?
That's a big question. I'll keep it, honestly, if we wanted to connect after, I'd be happy to get into more detail. A lot of it, it's more about setting up a process that allows you to answer questions down the line. So how many people in here do their Facebook ads, their own Facebook ads? Okay, perfect. So when you're building out your campaign ad set ad, there are ways to develop those that allow you to see what's working and what's not on the content side. So I honestly, a lot of marketing today is not about being smart. Honestly, it's about setting up options and sitting back and letting the algorithm do its thing. And then once you see what the algorithm is doing, maybe putting a little bit more money there. So we can get into that more, but that's basically what it is. It's about ad structure where you're not just breaking out different content types, but different geos and interest groups and things like that as well. But I'm happy to talk more about that, yeah.
All right, the person in gray, yes.
Yeah, this is a little self-serving. Aaron knows this from me. We know each other. But what are ways to reach people? A lot of clients that I talk to, I've worked not at any but with marketing software, but outside of social media, everybody I talk to says that social media is not working as well. So do you have ideas for filling that funnel at the top level that you can then remarket to them once they work down that?
So that kind of touches on what I said before about, I think if you learn to market in social media, pre-iOS 14.5 and you haven't turned that corner, you do feel like it doesn't work anymore because it doesn't. So you have to learn how to use social media again. I honestly was not a huge fan of Meta and Facebook just in my life. And so when this happened, I was like, oh, cool, the death of Facebook. But it's not. Like they actually still engage fans in a big way. But you do have to know sort of the tricks. Outside of that, I would say there's no silver bullet. It's just, again, your market, your building, but just taking every opportunity to collect small amounts of data. Those contests are a good way to do that. Growing that email list. Email is huge. Everything you should be doing should be feeding that email list. And then respecting your email subscribers, like making sure that they don't see an announcement on Facebook or hear it on the radio before your email goes out, things like that. There's a lot you can do around that.
Do you mind if I add? One is also, and we'll give you contacts in the information that we're going to share afterwards, but Spotify has a pre-sale program that is absolutely and utterly free. It used to require you to pull inventory, and that was a fight with your ticketing company, et cetera. It doesn't anymore. And we'll give you 2 contacts at Spotify to reach out to them. They won't do every show, so you should think about, is it a show where the artist is active on Spotify, et cetera, but they're doing hundreds of shows. And not just the biggest shows, actually, frankly. They're very much into the small to middle artist. And then, sorry to be self-serving, but Bands in Town delivered 3.7 billion concert recommendations last year. 65% of that probably in the US. So you've got to figure out how to get your fair share. And the one thing that you should all do is there's a verified venue program. That's absolutely free. So we'll give you a link to it in the thing, but you should go make sure your venue is verified, which means that we have the right address and you can put your picture up. And if you do that, then you're included in some of the partner programs, like, for example, Apple Maps has a recommendation, Shazam has a recommendation, Bands in Town's the exclusive partner for that, but you won't be included in those if you're not a verified venue. And then there are paid marketing things to affinity fans, et cetera, but there'll be links to that. I don't want to sell it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, it sounds like the funnel has gotten wider. There's less specificity because Meta's collecting less data. They're not allowed to track other applications. They're only tracking their own platform. I mean, not to shill and plug what I'm doing, but ultimately, the thing about review and rating platforms is that they have very high conversions. So if you look at Yelp's data, if you're looking up a restaurant on Yelp, the chances of you dining at that restaurant within 30 days is exponentially higher than if you Googled that restaurant or looked it up on Facebook. And so I think figuring out how to access that slice before the conversion, it's a more narrow part of the funnel. It's what I'm aiming to do. It's also what Fabrice does an amazing job at Bands in Town, and there are a lot of great platforms that can kind of help with that.
And just really quick on Bands in Town too, and I'm not giving away too much here, but I mean, in terms of traffic that goes to Etix, and we're bigger than a lot of people think. We're the largest private ticketing company in the world. We're in all 50 states, et cetera. It is Google, Meta, and Bands in Town. Those guys drive purchases. They do. Now, again, no marketing platform is a miracle worker. You have to work them into your regular strategy. You can't, be 2 days before the show and, oh my gosh, we're not selling, all that kind of stuff. They'll help. But if you really want to be effective with them, work them into your on-sale strategy, work them into your closing strategies. They are fantastic. Love those guys.
Agreed 100%. All right, Lisa, we'll go to you.
I'm Lisa, and I was going to ask about Google. As a nonprofit, we receive $10,000 a month in free Google ads, but the reality is you have to have like a PhD to know.
Yes, it requires support.
So I've been always struggling with, is it worth it for me to just make that investment to hire a company to manage those ads, and if you could speak on that.
Yeah, we manage those ads for some of our clients, and they're okay. They're not. They don't give you the premium inventory and things like that. But I would say I wouldn't go hire someone to do that. But if you have a team that's doing other marketing, to pay a little extra to have that done properly is worth it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That grant is really amazing, but it works really well in conjunction with regular paid search, and they work hand in hand to really amplify your ads together collectively. All right, next question.
Yeah, we're a PSC that presents a variety of entertainment, and in terms of the timing of release of shows and things like that, I'm wondering if the season brochure is kind of becoming a dinosaur. We're kind of thinking of ditching ours.
Yeah.
We're just focusing on specific shows. Maybe doing an announcement, but really kind of getting rid of the brochure.
Yeah, so the question is about brochures and whether or not they're becoming dinosaurs. It's really, an interesting question. It's kind of like the program and like memberships. People are asking, are these things dying? Are they dead? I think it's really about looking forward to new iterations and next levels, right? And so I think we have to be mindful about the amount of money that we invest in these things, time and resource-wise. But I think also we have to think about meeting the needs and staying connected with those audience members who rely on that. And so finding that balance between current audiences and those new audiences is really key and something that we've had to navigate. It started even pre-pandemic, seeing that like decline with memberships and patrons who expect that. But the pandemic really revved that up. So I think that we have to really be strategic about these things each season and figure out, how we can like bring that cost down, still serve that audience, and still find new ways to connect and provide resources to folks. Who else on the team would like to contribute?
I mean, I would just say this isn't really my area of expertise, but it sounds like you could stagger on sales in a different way. Whereas if you're presenting everything at once and marketing every single show in your season, if you're not selling a lot of subscriptions, could make a lot of sense to do different on sales at different times. So I see it as giving flexibility, which could be a benefit.
Yeah, and I would just say I'm seeing fewer seasons and season announcements and season brochures and more monthly or quarterly oversized postcards kind of things that give you the shows that are going to go on sale that month or happening that month, something like that.
Yeah. The planning time has really decreased for people overall lately.
Yeah, and again, just to agree, like I've done that exact thing, and luckily was successful. But I also know theaters that sell 80% of their tickets that way. So
Yeah.
it just really depends. I would say the ones that where the brochures are, still really the gold standard are fewer, but it's a good move to make. But something else you can do with your longtime customers or your members or your donors is just through inventory management, allow them to, because a lot of it is, right, it's anxiety around, well, if there's 3 more shows and I don't know what they are, how do I know what, so when you start to do that, just introduce, member holds or donor holds, allow them, you could do these little, 5-pack type deals where if you have 15 shows, they can choose 5, whatever it is, but there are ways with tools and technology and inventory management to pull the anxiety down from folks if they're worried they're going to miss out on something.
Exactly, yeah. All right, it looks like we might have time for one more question before we prepare to close. All right. Yes.
I'll make it quick. I think from a performing arts side, we are going into our season and all the agents that we're speaking with at this conference asking what marketing they provide.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know from previous things that we've booked, we've seen it, we know it's amazing. They have literally nothing to work with to send out to the public. So where this is all coming from as like the presenter side and marketing and things, if you don't have marketing material to provide, you can't sell it.
Yes.
Agreed. Very agreed.
So a concern is being lifted up that some of the artists don't have marketing materials that venues and organizations can use to help sell their performances. Would someone like to get started on that? No? Okay.
I'll just do a quick plug for dark ads for artists. So as a venue, just always request through management. And dark ad access means that you, through your Facebook ad account, can use the band's brand, their social profile to market. So you get access to a different audience, and it's a first-person connection. So you're taking advantage of that connection between the artist and their audience directly.
I would just very quickly say that, as someone who's in the agent world, a lot of times if you sign a new artist who is just trying to enter the PAC market, they don't necessarily see the value because every artist thinks they're great, right? Every artist thinks they're going to sell. And so, the more that you can directly communicate that to the agent and say, listen, I would book this show if they had better marketing materials, the more you can probably go to that artist as the agent and say, hey, this is a worthwhile investment. There's going to be an ROI on this. You're not just creating videos for it to get kind of lost in the pile.
Yeah, and then I'll add to that I think one of the benefits of social media is that it allows for greater flexibility. So that sometimes we get caught up in the quality, right? I can't hire a photographer. Is there something else that can be done that the artist can share that's a little low-key, maybe more intimate, that creates a different experience, that still really gives them a time to be introduced to your audience in an exciting way, right? That's a little different and more authentic than a high-profile shoot. So again, I think experimentation is key as audiences continue to change and as we learn new technologies. So I want us all to keep that in mind going forward. As we prepare to close, let's hear some final thoughts from our panelists.
Number one, I guess just thank you. Thanks, everyone. I'll be at the Etix booth if anyone has any follow-up questions. They did mention there's a session directly after this, so we can't linger too long, but I think we can all probably go outside and answer any additional questions. But I've been coming to this conference since before I was at Etix at my venue, and not 32 years. But I love this conference. I'll just be happy to talk with anyone that has any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, I would reiterate that. I mean, this is a great opportunity to speak in front of everyone. Really appreciate the time. And actually, I'm taking off. I have a cousin who's getting married in Santa Barbara, so I'm leaving this afternoon. But happy to talk to anyone, after this or just in general. I'll be walking around the exhibit hall. So.
Thank you as well. And as I said, there'll be contacts for Spotify, for bands in town, et cetera, in this thing, so you can follow up on that directly. I'll make sure mine's there too, so if you get lost, I'll try and help you. And I would just say that, Aaron's point about trying to sell tickets when the fan wants to buy them rather than when you want to sell them is probably the biggest lesson you could take away. And thinking about where they want to buy tickets, when they want to buy tickets. You use this word, and you're going to hear it a lot this year, super fans. All of the record labels, they're focused on who are their best consumers, the super fan, and you need to focus on super fans as well.
All right. So with that being said, we shared a few references like bands in town, some Spotify connections, also a company, a digital marketing arts agency that I've worked with for many years when I was here in New York and still currently. It's called Capacity Interactive. They're one of the companies that you can hire to help with the Google ads, but they are costly. So they also have resources on their website that you can use that are free and might give you some insight into certain marketing tactics that could be helpful. So we're going to work with the APAP team to kind of share a few links and resources that you all can lean on. With that being said, we want to thank each of our panelists, and we want to thank you, our colleagues, for participating in this rich conversation today. Don't forget to take the APAP survey and make sure that you enjoy the rest of your conference. And really quickly, the next session in this room is the future impact of AI on presenting and touring. So again, just talking about next level, new iterations.
You thought you were upset before, huh?
So that's why we're wrapping up now. But thank you so much, and say hi when we see you around.